The two most powerful countries of Asia, China and India. These two countries are the emerging powers and the most populated countries in the world. But after a deadly clash on Himalayan borders in mid-2020, India started banning hundreds of Chinese apps.
Chinese apps have been delisted.
फाइनली टिकटॉक को पूरे देश से बैन कर दिया गया.
PUBG along with 118 other apps were banned earlier on.
The reason is national security threat because they collect user data from Indian users. This also led to boycott Chinese manufacturers as well. It means no use of Chinese products. We should completely boycott China. This is all political side of it. There is always deadly clash between neighbors when it comes to politics. But let's look at the business side of these two countries. Things seem to be business as usual between China and India. The numbers prove that business relationship has been stronger than earlier. Let's look at the reality in 2022. Can you really boycott China? What will happen if you really boycott China in 2022? First of all, a lot of companies in India are funded by Chinese companies. Flipkart, one of the leading e-commerce companies in India, a Chinese company has invested more than $300 million in Flipkart. Swiggy, the largest investor for Swiggy is a Chinese company. Byju's has taken funding from Chinese company. Ola's major investment comes from China. Zomato, Paytm, BigBasket, Oyo, Practo and many other companies in India have taken investment from Chinese companies. In a way, China is a major support for these companies to grow. You can't deny this fact. Let's look at the telecommunications segment. If you look at this chart of recent smartphone market share in India, 65% of the market share belongs to Chinese companies. Apart from Samsung, all these top companies are from China. Xiaomi, Vivo, Realme and Oppo are all Chinese companies. If we look at it from a production point of view, Xiaomi generates employment of more than 60,000 in India. This is just one company. Think of overall employees from other big companies. Currently, India is facing 7.8% unemployment rate. These Chinese funded companies are providing employment for many families. That's just the reality. Unemployment is one of the major problems in India. There is a lot of unrest in Indian youth because of job opportunities. If you boycott China completely, India needs to have a solid backup plan of employment opportunities at a massive level. Let's look at the actual trade relationship between India and China. The biggest importer for India is none other than China. In 2021, India's imports from China were the highest in the history of trade between these two countries. The most important part of the video is this. When it comes to trade between the countries, China has a long-term strategy. Generally, China doesn't try too hard to innovate in products or dominate the sectors like the US, which is known for technological advancements. Instead, China focuses on its core strengths. What are these strengths? Manufacturing, finance, and labor. China is leading in finance. That's the biggest advantage they have. Just look at the top banks in the world by assets. They're all from China. Largest manufacturing country in the world is China. Not only for their country, but they also help other countries for large-scale manufacturing, including strategic building of ports for countries. This is mainly for oil trade like Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Myanmar and Djibouti. And lastly, the labor. The highest populated country in the world is China. To give you a perspective, let's take an example of iPhones. The US focuses on bringing the best iPhones, but the China focuses on the manufacturing. Though Apple is moving the manufacturing units to India, especially iPhone 14, but the current reality is 98% of the Apple products are manufactured in China. China's strategy with business is to be the heart of production. Either they give you money to manufacture or manufacturing parts, or their labor to manufacture. They make it almost impossible to take them out of the business. You take them out of the business, you take your own business out. As simple as that. Let's come back to the Indian trade. The biggest export China did to India in 2021 are electrical and electronic equipment. Second largest is machinery. They export vehicle parts, electronics, telecommunication parts, nuclear machinery, and fertilizer tools. In fact, India is heavily dependent on China for electronic goods. According to the World Trade Center Mumbai, over 90% of electronic goods are imported from China, like television sets and integrated circuits. Import of laptops and personal computers have increased by 77%. If you look at the top computer brand, Dell, their top importer is India. Again, it comes from China. Fertilizers like urea, diammonium phosphate are imported from China to help Indian farmers. Indian automobiles use high quality alloy which is imported from China. JSW, a popular steel company in India, imports $400 million annually from China. Plastic and electronic toys. To be honest, China is dominating India when it comes to toys market. China is the world market leader in exporting toys. There is a huge demand for toys in India. India imports toy products worth $600 million from China. Good thing about China is that prices are cheaper compared to Indian toys. They have more variety in their toy collection. They know what Indian kids want and what their parents can afford. Let's come to milk. India is the largest milk producer in the world, but India imports a variety of milk and dairy products from China, like chocolate products, food preparation products with milk, milk powder, and lactose powder. From a business perspective, if you cut ties with China and fully boycott China, there will be a major impact on business for India. Problem with India is that India doesn't have this large-scale manufacturing at the moment, which China is producing. Growth in India is led by services industry and not manufacturing. The primary economy is farm economy, but we are moving away from the primary economy towards the service economy. But China is way ahead in terms of manufacturing technology and growth. But in reality, I don't see a major issue between these two countries when it comes to business. The question is, do you think China has trapped India in terms of international trade? What do you think India is doing? I'm sure by this time you have a lot to say about India-China business. Write in the comments below and let the debate begin. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next video.